Welcome to the TExES 391 Core Subjects EC6 Online Test Prep course, covering subject exam number 1, English, Language, Arts, and Reading, test number 901. This course is presented by Teacher Preps, your trusted source to help you pass your teacher certification exam. Thanks so much for being here. Let's get started. As you can recall from the NES and Texas Education Agency Administration website, the Texas Core Subjects 391 English Language Arts and Reading exam has a total of 10 competencies. This lesson is all about competency number 5, which states the teacher knows the importance of vocabulary development and applies that knowledge to teach reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Let's dissect this to really understand what we'll need to know in order to pass this section of your exam. First, let's notice that Competency 5 is all about vocabulary development. Now, what do you need to know about vocabulary development? Well, let's examine that further. According to this description statement, we need to know how to teach reading, listening, speaking, and writing to enhance our students' vocabulary development. All right, so now that we know the gist of what we have to learn by the end of this lesson, let's further explore the description statements within this competency. As we can see, there are a total of 6 descriptive statements. In this online course, I'll walk you through each and provide you with everything you need to know for your exam. If that sounds good to you, let's begin. Starting with the descriptive statement or standard number 1, which says the beginning teacher knows how to provide explicit, systematic instruction and reinforcing activities to help students in grades 4 through 6 increase their vocabulary. As you can recall from our Competency 4 lesson, I talked extensively about the importance of and how to provide explicit and systematic instruction to enhance our students' comprehension skills. Now, let's build from that knowledge to implement these techniques and teaching strategies for our students' vocabulary development. To begin, let's start with the refresher that the term vocabulary includes words and their meanings. Additionally, effective vocabulary instruction includes these key parts. First, the teacher must provide students with the definitions to their vocabulary words that are student-friendly and fit the student's age and ability. Second, we need to provide meaningful, contextualized examples, especially for new concepts. This means that the teacher not only provides kid-friendly definitions, but also provides students with the experience of reading these words in sentences or text passages. Third, provide repeated exposure to the vocabulary words. Furthermore, each effective vocabulary lesson includes the following 4 components. First, direct instruction of specific words. Second, teaching students independent word learning strategies. Third, developing word consciousness. And fourth, encouraging wide reading. Your exam will ask you to demonstrate your ability to provide effective vocabulary instruction. In the upcoming slides, I'll equip you with the list of explicit vocabulary instructional strategies that you'll want to use and be looking out for examples and answers on test day. When teaching vocabulary, make sure to design guided discussions that build students' practice of academic content and concepts. Next, connect guided discussions of the new words with their meanings. Challenge students to identify synonyms and antonyms. Discuss words, their word origins, the roots, and affixes, such as the prefix and the suffix. Now, one strategy that students love is when you tell them a story of a word by sharing its etymology. We also want to create visuals for the students, such as a semantic map. Also, develop and provide word banks. Next, we can use compare and classify words orally and in writing by teaching students visual organizational methods like the Venn diagram. Generate metaphors and analogies with words orally and also in writing. We also want to incorporate new vocabulary in subject matter discussions and written assignments. For our next explicit vocabulary strategy, remember, use precise words in speaking and in writing. The strategies mentioned in the previous slides should be used to provide variety and keep student engagement high. Next, we will detail the step-by-step framework for the structure of vocabulary instruction. If you receive a question on your exam regarding teaching vocabulary, the instructional strategy that you'll want to look out for is contextual redefinition. Let's go over what this is now. First, the teacher selects targeted vocabulary words to teach based on frequency, utility, and level of knowledge about that topic. Then, the teacher finds or creates a text passage that includes the targeted words. Note that these two steps are completed in preparation and not while the teacher is with the students in the classroom. In step number 3, the teacher is teaching the students in the classroom. The teacher now presents the target words by either writing or projecting the words on the whiteboard. This is done in isolation, meaning using a list. And the students independently use their vocabulary notebooks to write the meaning of each of the words. Now, if a child doesn't know the meaning of a word, they simply write, "I don't know." Next, the students move into small groups of 3 or 4 in order to speak together to discuss what their peers wrote. Hey, what do you think this word means? I think it's this. What do you think it means? I think it's that. Then, at this time, students can keep, change, or update the definitions they originally wrote from the previous step. The teacher now shows the target words in a text passage. We move from isolation to context. Look at the word again, contextual redefinition. Okay, let's keep going. Again, the students update their answer to write a more thorough definition. Next, the teacher and the students have a guided discussion of the target words, and volunteer students raise their hand and offer their definitions of what they think the words mean. Then the teacher continues to lead a guided discussion about the target words by eliciting synonyms and antonyms of the target words from the students by focusing on the word origins, the roots, and or the affixes. As connections are being discussed, the teacher is making a semantic or word map on the board. While students are engaged in this discussion, they are also writing the word web in their notebooks. Then, in order to incorporate the new vocabulary taught in this lesson in a written assignment, the teacher provides a worksheet that includes the target words from the day's vocabulary lesson in a word bank at the top of the paper, and the students use the words to complete the writing assignment. So, the students look at the word bank and they create a paragraph using the words. Remember that the TExES Essential Knowledge and Skills Guidelines wants you to provide instruction that enhances your students' vocabulary development through application of reading, listening, speaking, and writing. So, on your exam, use your critical thinking skills to closely evaluate scenario-based exam questions and select answers that would fulfill the TExES Essential Knowledge and Skills criteria. Moving forward, now let's tackle the second descriptive statement in competency number 5, which reads, "The beginning teacher knows how to use formal and informal methods to effectively teach vocabulary to students in grades 4 through 6. All right, so here it looks like formal and informal are our keywords in this lesson, and we'll be using formal and informal methods to effectively teach vocabulary to our students. Let's jump straight into this lesson. Beginning with an introduction to formal methods of vocabulary instruction, remember that these methods are structured, planned, and deliberate. These strategies are typically teacher-directed and may be drawn from a curriculum or standards-based approach. Building from our direct and explicit systematic lesson, direct instruction for formal methods of teaching vocabulary will include pre-selected words by the teacher who will provide definitions, give examples, and use the vocabulary terms in context, whether that be spoken, written, or other forms such as music. For your exam, look for answers that use visual representations of the relationships between words and concepts. For instance, when teaching the word aquatic, the teacher might use a semantic map and draw out branches using words such as water, ocean, freshwater, and marine life. Great, let's keep going. Informal methods of vocabulary instruction. Let's talk about it. These are often student-centered and are embedded naturally within the classroom activities and discussions. Engaging activities for informal methods of providing vocabulary instruction include contextual learning. This method encourages students to infer the meaning of a word based on the surrounding context. Another great informal method of teaching vocabulary that children love is through wordplay, which includes activities like crosswords, word searches, bingo, vocabulary, and then finally, we also have interactive journals where students can note down unfamiliar words, their meanings, synonyms, antonyms, and continuously keep building in that journal. In conclusion, both formal and informal methods of vocabulary instruction have their merits. While formal methods offer structure and ensure that essential vocabulary is covered, informal methods provide student engagement and natural learning. Effective vocabulary instruction in grades 4 through 6 incorporates a balance of both, catering to diverse learning styles and ensuring comprehensive vocabulary development. For this lesson, we're moving straight into the third descriptive statement within competency number 5, which reads, the beginning teacher selects and uses a wide range of instructional materials such as literary, informational, argumentative, multimodal, and digital text, strategies and opportunities with rich contextual support for vocabulary development for our students from grades 4 through 6. So far, in the TExES core subjects, English language arts and reading course, we've covered how to provide explicit systematic instruction and reinforcing activities for developing vocabulary in our lesson. Then that segued into our second lesson, how to use formal and informal methods to effectively teach vocabulary. And now we're on our third lesson, which continues to build from one to the next. Now we're going to learn how to select a wide range of instructional materials to support our students' vocabulary development. Let's jump straight into this. Understanding the types of materials available is foundational. Here's a quick breakdown. First, literary texts. These are fictional materials that can range from prose to poetry. For instance, while reading a classic such as Charlotte's Web, students might encounter a word like radiant or humble. Next, we have informational texts. These are nonfiction materials that provide facts and information. In a text about rainforests, words like biodiversity, canopy, or ecosystem might pop up. Then we have argumentative texts, and these advocate a particular point of view. A piece arguing for environmental conservation might introduce terms such as sustainability or renewable resources. Now we have multimodal texts, and these combine two or more systems like visuals or text. A comic strip or an infographic can fall underneath this category. Vocabulary might be inferred from pictures as well as other surrounding texts. Then we have digital texts, and these are online or electronic and internet-based materials. Blogs, ebooks, or digital magazines are prime examples. They can introduce internet-specific lingo or terms pertinent to digital culture. Now, let's guide you into how to select a strategy to complement these instructional materials. Here are the strategies for vocabulary development to be on the lookout for exam day that are suitable for all of the instructional materials previously listed. Context clues. Teach students to use surrounding information in a text to infer the meaning of unfamiliar words. Word parts. Familiarize students with prefixes, suffixes, and root words to decode unfamiliar words. Graphic organizers. Tools to help students understand words by examining their definition, synonyms, antonyms, and usage in a sentence. So, those were the strategies for vocabulary development. Now, let's move on to providing rich contextual support for vocabulary development. And to remember this term, let's think about how context aids or helps with comprehension. Furthermore, a word introduced in isolation is much less likely to be remembered than a word presented with ample contextual clues. For instance, rather than just introducing the word archipelago, a text that reads, "An archipelago is a group of islands like the Hawaiian Islands," will make more sense and be easier to remember for our students. Moving on to our fourth descriptive statement within Competency 5, this one reads, "The beginning teacher recognizes the importance of selecting, teaching, and modeling a wide range of general and specialized vocabularies for students in grades 4 through 6. The keywords in this standard are general and specialized vocabularies." Now, let's get you fully prepped for exam day by starting with the understanding of the difference between general versus specialized vocabulary, where general vocabulary encompasses words that are frequently used across different contexts and different subjects. For instance, words like analyze and contrast or interpret can be applied in multiple subjects from English all the way to science. On the other hand, specialized vocabulary, also referred to as academic vocabulary, these words are specific to their subject and might be frequently encountered in a particular discipline. For example, in science, words like photosynthesis or condensation are specialized terms that a student may not come across in history or in an English lesson. Keep in mind that both types of vocabulary are crucial to learn. While general vocabulary provides the foundation for everyday communication and comprehension, specialized vocabulary dives deeper into specific subjects, which enable our students to grasp intricate concepts and ideas. Your exam will want you to demonstrate your understanding for selecting appropriate vocabulary terms. You will need to answer questions that show your understanding that not all words should be given equal emphasis in teaching. The factors for selecting appropriate vocabulary include number one, frequency, which is the more often a word is seen, the more important it is for a student to learn it. Number two is utility, which is the more useful the learning of the word is for the students, the more the students need to learn it, the more we as teachers need to teach it. And then number three, level of knowledge, which means the less familiar a student understands a word, the more important it is for the teacher to teach it. In this next lesson, we'll cover everything you need to know about the fifth descriptive statement in competency number 5, which states, "The beginning teacher understands how to address and monitor vocabulary knowledge for students in grades 4 through 6 by providing systematic, age-appropriate instruction and reinforcing activities such as morphemic analysis, etymology, use of graphic organizers, contextual analysis, multiple exposures to a word in various contexts." All right, so after reading that, I see that we are still working toward the main goal of this competency, which is all about vocabulary. This time, however, we're focusing on how to assess and monitor. So let's go over that now. Understanding how to assess and monitor vocabulary knowledge is vital for a teacher, as it informs us about a student's progress and helps identify areas where we can provide additional support. How to assess vocabulary and academic knowledge and language, let's go over it now. One option is to use a word in a sentence, a valid method where the target word is used within a sentence and definitions are provided in phrases. An example of this might look like target word ephemeral. Sentence: the beauty of the rainbow is ephemeral as it fades away shortly after the rain stops. Then we'll have multiple answer options: A, B, C, or D. And in this case, the answer is A, lasting a very short time. And we can understand that even if we didn't know the word through the sentence. Another assessment option is to select a synonym. Have our students select a synonym. This will gauge their understanding and allow us to understand what they already know. Now, we do this by asking students to select a synonym for a given word. Here's an example: the target word benevolent. Synonyms: malicious, kind-hearted, indifferent, or mysterious. In this case, we know that the answer is kind-hearted. And finally, one more example that you might see on your exam: analogies, which measure knowledge by creating relationships between words. Let's look at an example. Question: bird is to fly as fish is to walk, swim, climb, jump. The correct answer that the student should circle is swim. Now let's look at how to assess using morphemic analysis, which tests the student's understanding of prefixes, suffixes, and root words, and also compound words. For your exam, keep in mind that morphemic analysis is also called structural analysis. And that's when you look at the parts of a word to determine their meaning. You can have a look at this word here: undeliverable. Prefix plus root word plus suffix. If on your exam you're presented with a question for how to teach students to independently understand the meaning of words, you can certainly use morphemic analysis. However, it's important to know the second strategy called contextual analysis. Contextual analysis is when children use contextual clues to figure out the meaning of unknown words. What helps me best understand contextual analysis is to think about the textbooks that kids read in their science classes. This textbook presents information in an easy to learn format using bold terms, designated direct definitions. Oftentimes, there will be captions under the images and even example words to learn the vocabulary. All of the contextual clues really help young learners learn these new words. However, the disadvantage of only teaching children to figure out the meanings of unknown words using contextual clues is that as the child gets older, these learning supports in their textbooks are incrementally taken away. This means that the children who weren't directly taught morphemic analysis skills will have a difficult time decoding unfamiliar words as they get older. Next, let's recognize that assessments have 3 levels. First, entry level. These are used to determine the child's level before the lesson or the unit. Second, we have progress monitoring assessment, and this assessment is used during the lesson or in the middle of a larger unit, which helps the teacher understand what the children are picking up. Are they getting it? Is the teacher's instruction doing what it should to convey the new learnings of the lessons? And then third, we have summative assessment. This assessment is at the end of instruction, when the teacher formally assesses the students at met the standard, has not met the standard, or is exceeding the standard. Next, teachers need to analyze and interpret the information they collect based on the assessments provided. Each assessment needs to tell a teacher which students are below expectations, at expectations, and exceeding expectations. Furthermore, these results help the teacher create differentiated instruction plans to teach to the student's individual needs. And now we move into our sixth and final statement in Competency 5, which reads, the beginning teacher provides multiple opportunities to listen to, read, and respond to various types of literary and informational texts in order to promote the vocabulary development of students in grades 4 through 6. All right, let's begin by breaking apart this statement to clarify understanding of what we need to know for our exam. First, the aim or goal still is vocabulary development, as all of Competency 5 is about this topic. And now we're given two types of texts that will be important in addressing this standard. First, literary and informational texts. And finally, the top and most specific to this standard, listening, reading, and responding. Let's jump straight into this lesson so you are totally prepped for test day. Providing varied interactions with literary and informational texts allows students to encounter vocabulary in diverse contexts, essential for retention and comprehension. Next, let's talk about these different modes of learning. Listening. Have students listen to audiobooks, podcasts, or teacher read passages. This exposes the student to pronunciation, intonation, and context. Next, we have reading. Encourage independent reading, group reading sessions, and paired reading between students. This provides exposure to new words and revisits familiar ones too. Next, we have responding. Allow students to engage with the text through discussions, written reflections, or creative projects. This lets them use new vocabulary in a variety of ways, solidifying their understanding. And now we move on to promoting vocabulary development. For your exam, keep in mind that vocabulary growth occurs when students encounter words multiple times and in varied context. For example, after reading a story set in a desert landscape, students could be given a scientific article about desert ecosystems. By doing so, they get multiple exposures to words like arid, dune, and cacti in a variety of contexts.